Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's show. It is episode 150, which is special for us for two reasons. First of all, it's our 150th episode, and we take a minute to reflect on the enjoyment that we've had from making the show, and also to thank everybody for all the support that we've had along the way. And the second part is that it was also the Hobby Hangout week in Melbourne, which we were very honored to be part of. We were invited along to do a live podcast today, and we were just very honored to be a part of all of that. We were joined by some very special guests, people that have supported us for a very long time now, Caynes and also Joo Foo, who you might better know him as Shaq Fu. So please enjoy this week's show. The audio quality is probably not what you're used to when it comes to You Can't Comp This, but it was recorded on the floor of the Hobby Hangout, so you might hear a little bit of ambient noise in the background. But overall, I still think you'll enjoy this week's show.
Welcome everybody to episode 150 of the You Can't Comp This NBA Trading Card Podcast. We're your hosts, Adam, Amy, and Russell Gibson, and we are at the Hobby Hangout,
which looks amazing.
Yeah, putting on a great show as per always.
I think what we were talking about before was that each year they improve it and make things just a little bit better. So last year the lighting was a little bit dim.
Yes.
That was the first thing I noticed when I came in. It's just very bright and effervescent.
Effervescent. Just amazing. Yes. Oh,
the layout is much easier for people to walk around this year. They've spread it out a little bit more. So
I get the feeling there may be fewer traders, but they're positioned in a much better way. The flow of walking when we did our walk around was great. So
heaps of people here walking around looking to do deals with people, buying, selling.
Yes.
I'm seeing a lot of people doing trades. John O'Michaels has already been doing trades with people.
Yes, a lot of familiar faces. I've seen Jono. We did catch up with Lane, who's launching 130 Points app.
As an app, yeah. So I think we had a very long demo with him, probably about 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah, it was great.
But that actually deserves its own episode. So I say we hold on to that for a later time.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Who else did we catch up with? I went and saw Matt from Matt's Card Shop.
Yeah.
Who else have we seen? I think you went and saw the
Fast
Cherry
Break.
Fast Break, yeah.
Everyone's here at the moment. So the boys from Double Coverage are here.
Yep.
They've got a popping little stall over there too. So
yeah,
I think we just say thank you to the organisers. I think that's a big thing for us. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, Matt and Andrew, thanks for having us back again.
And also, we've been a little bit divas, to be honest, like making all these different requests for them. So thanks to the lads for giving us all the requests that we wanted.
Yeah, look, I still want to do Pocket Change live on stage, and I'm gonna die on that hill. They won't. They're just scared I'm going to talk ill of Luca. I'm sure. All
right, should we dive in?
Let's do it.
Yeah. So I think what we should really quickly touch on is the NBA draft. I think that's the big story from this week. First off.
Yep.
And I think the first thing I should probably add to that is that I watch zero college basketball at all. So from my sort of reporting aspect of this, it's going to be very, very limited.
Oh, look, if I learned one thing, apparently you don't need to watch college basketball because they come from everywhere else these days. I think France had 3 in the top 6, was it? NBL stars. It's, not just the college.
I think the theme that seems to be coming through from this year's draft, though, is it's a pretty weak draft, and you haven't got particularly a superstar in it like you've had from previous years of Victor Wembanyama. You're not going to have even a Ja Morant or a Zion Williamson. That type of high-level talent isn't there.
That's a really diplomatic way to call it. I was told it was a trash draft.
That's right. So I think Joe's probably captured that. We should introduce Joe. Joo Foo is here from Shaq Fu and Card Fever. I believe that you represent them. So thanks, Joe, for joining us. We really appreciate that. Role player is what you'd be expecting to get from these drafts. So a lot of 3-and-D guys, a lot of projects that are 2 years away.
Projects. I like that too.
I do have a quote, though, and I actually wrote this down from a video that I was watching. So this is with Landry Fields, who's the GM of the Hawks. So the Hawks had the number 1 overall pick. They chose Zachary Rissecher, which I am absolutely sure my wife, who speaks French fluently, will be laughing at me as she always laughs at me when I try and read some French.
Yeah.
This is how Landry Fields described his number 1 overall pick. A love for the game, a good mindset, good versatility, good size, good commitment on and off the ball, offense and defense. He's competitive. He's unselfish. It's an exciting day for the Hawks. It doesn't fill me with joy, and it doesn't fill me with optimism that that is the person who's going to take your team to the next championship. There's nothing mentioned there about having a killer mentality, someone that can score 35 points on any moment, someone that can shut down a defense. None of that's been said. And I think for me, where I'm sort of sitting with this, it just sounds to me like they've got a very good role play with the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, they've got. Wait, we can layer this in with the early round trades because Atlanta they've made a couple of moves. They've got their number 1 pick.
Yeah,
they've used that. They couldn't trade it, so they selected a role player, as you pointed out. They've made
very good role play.
They've drawn a line in the sand on who their number 1 guy is by moving DeJounte Murray to the was it to the Pelicans?
To the Pelicans, yeah.
So now, yeah, basically they've said that they're staying with Trae Young. They're not moving away from Trae Young by the look of it.
Yeah,
yeah. I think Atlanta's kind of going to stay the course, for better use of a term.
Yep.
I don't know if this sets them back because obviously the DeJounte Murray move was to try and propel them forward. Have they gone back a step? Are they reassessing? Are they going to go back now with a similar feel?
So I think my take on that is that it was the DeJounte Murray experiment. So they brought him in. They tried to pair him with Trae Young. I don't think they got the success that they wanted to. Obviously, they know a bit more behind the scenes in terms of locker room, how that was all playing out.
Yep.
They've cut their losses and they've moved forward. So I think there's 2 parts to break down after that. So what they paid for DeJounte Murray, which was very, very high. They gave away, I think, 2 picks, and one of those picks was unprotected.
Okay.
Which is a lot to pay for someone like that.
It is, for sure.
But at the same time, they then got back a first-round pick, and they also got back Dyson Daniels. And I think that's the one that I want to talk to you about now, because if we're talking about the hobby and winners and losers from the hobby, in my mind, the one that's won the most out of this is Dyson Daniels, because I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity.
Agreed.
They also cleared up a little bit of a logjam. So AJ Griffin was traded away from the Hawks.
Yes.
And I think they gave up on him too soon. I really like AJ Griffin. I think he's a really good 3-and-D player, and I think he's going to have a long career in the NBA. So for me, I'm a little bit unsure about why they would do that. But at the same time, if you're a Dyson Daniels guy, you've been PCing him, I think you should be very excited about this, because I think there's a lot more opportunity in Atlanta than he was going to get in New Orleans. New Orleans is very loaded.
Yep. More loaded now. I mean, we can talk about New Orleans' recent acquisition in Murray. I think it's a win-win trade for the teams. I don't know if Atlanta got the most value back, but they got something back, I guess.
But they also got Larry Nance Jr. as well in the deal, so they got some veteran presence.
A little bit of experience. Sure.
I think Larry Nance at this point of his career is more like trade filler to make sure the numbers are right.
Yes.
He's probably going to be in the rotation, but I don't. Okay, so for example, he's not going to be the starter because Jalen Johnson is the starter there and should be the starter. And if Larry Nance starts in front of him, that's probably more of an indication they're trying to tank than Jalen Johnson's not a very good prospect, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about some cards. We've made it through about 10 minutes of the show. We haven't even mentioned a single card yet. So Dyson Daniels, I found 2 cards here. One of one select black laundry tag sold for $225.
Okay.
That's obviously an interesting card, but the one I'm more interested in is this next one here. 1-1 from the set, 1 of 1, not 1 of 1. Rookie card autograph numbered to 99, sold for 18 USD. I think in the context of the current move that's just happened, for me, I give that A+ for that deal.
Dyson Daniels. So there's a lot of opportunity. Like we say, it's an opportunity for him in Atlanta. Is it an opportunity for collectors to pick up a few cards, or are we just saying this is going to see a small spike, possibly?
I think if you enjoy prospecting, I think that's a good one. The other thing about Dyson Daniels you have to add in too is he's got that Australian factor. So there's a little bit of insurance on those cards that even if he doesn't do that well, there's still going to be Aussie collectors out there.
In the Australian market, of course. Yeah, without a doubt.
All of them get some love. Even was it Dante got some love.
Yeah.
And then he came back.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. True. So I think we put the trades on hold for a second.
Oh, I couldn't help myself with that. Sorry for the segue.
No, it's totally fine. It's a great way to start the show. But
beautiful 150th episode fashion.
I don't think
I've already segued.
We're not going to go deep into the NBA draft just because of that's not my field of expertise.
Well, we can't prospect on it anyway until the players start playing, right?
Until
So
summer league kicks in.
yeah, we know there's been a draft. We've seen how the chips have fallen.
But I'm admitting I know nothing about the draft. Do you know what I mean? I'm just saying this like straight up. I don't watch college. I don't watch EuroLeague. I don't watch any of that stuff.
But
So.
isn't this year just Bronny James and that's it, right?
Yeah, all right.
All right, are we going to talk about Bronny James?
I'm surprised that Boston didn't use their 54th pick to draft Bronny James.
Just to
stick it to the Lakers. They had pick 54. The Lakers had 55.
I mean, for someone with Schadenfreude like myself, that would have been amazing. That would have been the happiest day of my life.
Did you hear, though, I've heard the rumour that Bronny James, apparently one of his teammates is sleeping with his mum.
I hate that joke so much. You know? I more feel bad for Bronny James. It's just the worst thing.
No, the other question is he going to call him dad on the court when he asks for the ball? Everybody's been through these the last couple of days.
I think it has to be LeBron, right?
Yeah, you'd think so.
Is there a slip at some point in the season?
I reckon he's got a nickname for his dad.
Desperate for his dad to pass him the ball and goes, Dad! And just, could you... Oh.
I reckon there's a nickname. I reckon
they'll have something
between them. Like his dad might call him Skip or Junior or something like that. It won't be Bronny. He'll just say, "Hey, Junior."
What or Junior? Yeah. Or what happens if he comes up and refers to somebody else on the team as son? That could get weird.
Lakers chemistry just like down the drain.
Welcome to the Lakers family. Wait a second.
All right. What I do want to talk about this is, do you think he should have been drafted at 55? And then the second part I want to talk to you about is the nepotism part. Do you have a problem? Do you see an issue with the nepotism? Do you see...
You can't stop it.
Yeah.
Like, there was talk going back to Kobe was going to play in Europe if he wasn't picked up by a team he wanted to play for. There's all the talk that Bronny was only going to play for Phoenix or the Lakers.
Yeah.
And if anyone else picked him up, he was coming down under for a year. He was playing the NBL.
Yep. Rich Paul flexed. He helped and he pumped and he got his way.
The thing is, it's an important time of the year. You can't waste a pick drafting someone in the hope that they will play for you if you've been told that they're not going to be on your roster.
Yeah.
They're prepared to delay the start of their NBA career if they're not drafted to the right team. And that's ridiculous in the as you said, the nepotism of it all is pretty messed up. But how do you control it?
So I think, to take Joe's point, LeBron's agency definitely flexed and put pressure onto people. I agree with that 100%. The next part is the nepotism part. Do I think there was nepotism? 100% I think that there was. Do I have a problem with it? I don't have a problem with it for 2 seconds. And I'm definitely going to be stealing the thought process from someone else here. So Woj was on a TV show and he addressed it directly. He's like, yeah, there was nepotism, but so what? He's like, nepotism in the front office, nepotism with the coaching appointments. And actually, in my mind, because I did the numbers on this because these are the stupid things that go through my head. Is the nepotism worse if you're a player and your dad influences the team to get it? So there's 350, 400 contracts in the NBA?
Yeah.
How many coaching roles is there available? 3 to 5 per team, right?
Yeah, true.
So if a father and a son influences, I think actually percentage-wise and in terms of degree of nepotism, I think it's much higher for the coaching, right? But actually the worst instance of nepotism was Doc Rivers.
Yes, and
the highest contract that Austin ever got was when Doc was in charge of the Clippers and gave him that contract. So you want to talk about nepotism and using power struggle, all this type of stuff. Like, to me, this is a drop in the ocean, right?
True.
The other thing too is, let's keep this in context a little bit. So, for example, if they had used him at the 14th pick overall or whatever it was, the Lakers
17th pick.
17th, right? Yeah. That, in my head, that's much worse, right?
Yes.
Then, yes, you're missing out on a prospect that potentially could actually be a role player for the Lakers in either 1 year or 2 years, right? Whereas a second-round pick, realistically, how many second-round picks actually pan out and contribute to a team? Realistically.
Yeah.
So I think
we can count it in our hands, right? It's like Draymond, it's Jokic. It's not that many.
There is a few here and there. So you are right in that space. But at the same time, too, I don't think they've actually lost something that significant.
That is a first-round pick.
That's right. That's not worth taking a risk on. And if this keeps LeBron happy, does it matter?
My question, my follow-up before we go back to the normal run sheet. If there wasn't this undertone that Bronny was going to play in Australia, do you think he would have been picked up in the draft
So
earlier?
I think if he was drafted by another team, he would have suited up and played for that team. There's no way that you give up on the NBA dream for some stupid thing.
But do you think he would have gone? Do you think if this wasn't the narrative that Rich Paul spoke into the world and said, "Don't bother drafting him, he's going with 55 to the Lakers.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's playing in Australia." If that message hadn't gone out, would another team have considered picking him up earlier?
I don't think so, because
Okay.
actually, I think so. There's two things that play there. One, he's a little bit undersized.
Yes.
He's, in my mind, too slow to play the one and too small to play the two. So he's a tweener first and foremost. The second thing is he had a massive health scare this year.
Yeah.
And I
We
think
forget about that.
if we
Yeah.
talk about in terms of, when players get analyzed, they literally get put into an MRI machine. All their bones get analyzed. They do like social interviews. They do the whole thing. So I think there is a risk there with his heart. And let's just say he plays 10 games and then he retires in his first year. I'm not going to be too surprised about that. But I actually think the bigger story, or where I think this the truth lies, is that people wanted to do good negotiations with LeBron's agency. So in the future, when they're negotiating again, they're like, hey, we didn't pick him at 30. We let him fall to 55 for you guys. What can you do to help us back? Or
no one helps the Lakers.
But you know what I'm trying to say? No, but it's not the Lakers so much. It's Rich Paul and their group that they've got. So that's where I lie with all that.
Yeah,
with Clutch. Yeah. So anyway, we've talked about that enough, haven't we?
Yeah, that's draft week done for now. I'm sure as Summer League happens,
I think we go to a
unpack some
break.
stuff. Yeah,
I think
let's go to a break.
we take our first break. Let's get some tunes in. Let's grab a quick drink, and then we can come back and we'll talk about our 150th celebration, because I think
Let's make it about us.
yeah, it is our 150th. So let's do that. Alrighty, we are back. And Al Caynes has jumped into the Joo Foo seat. So, Al, welcome to the show. Thank you for your ongoing support.
I think I'm a little bit bigger than Joe.
Representing,
Got some pretty big shoes to fill.
I have to admit, Al's really representing with his Regulate the Hobby t-shirt.
Absolutely.
Joe in his branded Shaq Fu Orlando jersey, that's impressive. That is an impressive jersey. An Orlando Magic Shaq Fu 32.
So we put up a post for 150. We asked people to tell us what you would like us to talk about. And there's been some really good topics on there. So
before we even go to the topics, just want to say thank you to everybody that congratulated us on the milestone.
Yeah.
We really appreciate all the support everybody's shown for the pod. And we've got some interesting questions or topics to cover.
I think we do.
Let's kick it off before I segue.
So our first segment that we're going to do is from Nathan Lee Thomas. So thank you so much, Nathan Lee Thomas. He wanted to do a comp between Nikola Jokic and Victor Wembanyama. So I think this is a really good one because it's the classic proven veteran versus the ultimate hype machine. I might turn this over to you, Al. Who have you got? Victor Wembanyama, or have you got Nikola Jokic? What do you got for me?
Look, are we talking now prices, or are we talking prices once the new season starts?
You can tell this story however you would like it to
so
be.
Here's the thing, right? So when we are the prices right now, sky high. They cannot maintain that price.
Insanely high.
Just way too big. And to the point where he has overshadowed the entire draft. Like, Scoot Henderson was picked third? Remember? I could be wrong about that. But where is Scoot's price in regards to that big alien that he is? Bottom dollar versus tens of thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing I would look at is the time period. If we're doing right now, I certainly wouldn't be buying into Victor at all, right? Because you're buying in at the peak. You really are.
Yeah.
12 months from now, you're not buying in the peak, right? Prices should have Adam have shifted down. Adam just made a face, don't worry, because I knew what was coming. But so here's the problem though. Nikola Jokic is a big guy, right?
He's a big guy.
He's a veteran.
He's a huge guy.
So why is his prices still so low? Because he's a big guy. Because collectors, generally speaking, hate big guys. Now,
Victor Wembanyama's a big guy, though.
Wait for it. I'm getting there. You have Shaq, right? For a long time, Shaq's prices did not reflect what Shaq is, which is a legendary powerhouse, right? once Shaq went out of the league, his prices actually started going up. Because people were like, I enjoy Shaq. They love Shaq, right? So here's my thing. Victor actually has that star factor. And I think that is the part where everyone needs to kind of set their minds about. It's not the big guy debate anymore. If you've got this big, powerful alien that is still a hype monster. Now, I don't know if the hype monster thing is going to continue. We always see that round one picks, even top picks, lose a bit of that value.
Yeah, definitely.
Jar lost value, going into the next season.
Yeah.
Zion lost value because, baby mama was... Let's not even get into that. Everyone knows how.
Yeah, and also he was in COVID, so that's a little bit of a tough comp. Yeah.
So I expect that Wembanyama's prices are going to come down.
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy into him now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But would I buy into Jokic? Probably not, because his prices are just going to stay the same.
Hang on, so your answer is neither.
Neither.
That's kind of cheating. You have to pick
you
one.
have to pick one.
Yeah.
You've got to pick one of them.
Well, I'm not going to buy into either of them. Anyway.
So his answer is Wemby later.
I'm not going to waste my money now. But Wemby later.
I'm going to buy Wemby later.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, let's turn it over to Adam then. Adam, who have you got?
Who have I got? I still think Jokic long term is undervalued.
Yeah.
I tend to agree with Al's point that you're paying premiums at the moment for Wemby. I don't know. I think there is still value to be found with Jokic. I mean, there's every possibility that Wemby comes out and sets the world on fire next season. Like there's a record breaking season in blocks or quadruple doubles. I don't know.
I mean, but it's possible when you look at the season that he's had, right?
But with the releases, like the sheer amount of cards that are available these days,
yeah.
I think your safe money's with Jokic.
Yeah. So the way I look at these two cards is risk. I think for me, with the price being obviously so high on a Victor, so his last sold on a silver PSA 10 was 620 USD, which is not actually outrageous. And if I had a trend to talk to you about, I would probably say that's down. In my head, I thought these are around sort of the $1,000 mark at some point.
They were.
And that's a guy that hasn't won an MVP, hasn't won a championship yet, and also very high pop count. That's easily going to be in that 2,000 mark in a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Nikola Jokic, who's won 2 MVPs, 1 championship, they were pretty close to running it back again this year. I think they just run into a very bad matchup for them with the Wolves.
True.
Population on this is just 165. And I think if I'm looking for value, if I'm looking for something that I'm holding on to for the future, I really like this a lot. The problem with this card, though, is it's currently trading at 2,800. I don't have a problem with that price per se. It's more just about gathering that much funds to actually go out and pick one up. So
that's true. That's true.
Nathan, thank you so much for that amazing question, mate. I definitely really enjoyed listening to you on that. This next question, I'm going to put this over to Joo Foo. So this is from Andrew Suter Hewitt. Andrew, thank you so much for all of the support you've given to the show. You have a $5,000 budget to buy a card of your choice. What are you buying? And congratulations on the 150. Andrew, thank you so much for the kind words.
It's our $5,000 budget.
If you need a moment to think about it, that's totally fine. I can come back.
Are we staying in the 90s or are we going modern?
Anything that you want.
See, for me,
it's your $5,000. What are you buying? We're at the Hobby Hangout.
For $5,000, I've seen some amazing autographs go up. So, like, there's some beautiful 90s autographs that are up there. I'll probably be investing in like a PSA 10 Kaboom or like a Color Blast.
Yeah.
You know, those are where the money's at. I'd probably find like a LeBron James, like a Kobe Bryant. Those would stay, and I can see their value go up because like that money is not going to go down. Like if I buy 5,000K in a rookie, an unproven rookie, anything can happen.
And Luca, say it turns into $2,000.
He could fall apart. That unicorn could fall apart.
True.
So like. For me, if you give me 5K, I'm going to go after something that's iconic.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a Kaboom. It would be a Color Blast. I probably lean more Kaboom. I voted Kaboom. I am Team Kaboom. I'd probably pick up a really nice Kaboom.
Yeah.
5K.
Yep. So I don't have an answer now because Joe took my answer.
No, you can say +1. That's totally fine.
I'm on the Kaboom train.
Yep.
All aboard.
So
new PMGs.
Yep.
Modern PMGs.
Actually, that's my answer. So last week we did a segment about the PMG. So it was Priest Lauderdale versus a Michael Jordan autograph. And if my memory serves me correctly, that Jordan auto was 3,000 US, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
So that's pretty much 5,000. I'm going for a Jordan autograph If I could somehow
Save
get
money. Yeah, I like it.
a Jordan auto, maybe even with a patch into it that would say raw or even like a low grade, like I would settle for like PSA 3 if that was the case.
PSA 3 patch auto. Jordan.
I think in terms of a $5,000 spend, you can't beat that. Al, what have you got for us?
Kobe's already dead, so
Yeah.
I'm picking up a Michael Jordan patch order for sure, because he's going to die within the next 10 years, right? Maybe 10
Jordan?
15 years.
He's got at least 40 years left. The guy,
Is he now?
the guy's immortal. Like,
He ain't dying. He ain't dying.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, if I'm looking to invest in something for the long term, I'm going to pick up a Michael Jordan order.
Yep.
If I've got that kind of cash.
That's fair.
So you could probably pick up, like, let's say a good patch order of Jordan for what, 3.5?
Sure.
And then I can use the rest on probably a Luka Color Blast or a Luka Kaboom.
You lose some money on your Luka, but mate, yeah.
Exactly. It evens itself out. If Jordan dies in a car accident in the next 5 years, so you're looking even better.
man, that's
Sorry,
very
Jordan,
pessimistic.
I'm trying
I
to
got to
He's
say,
applying
too.
for chauffeur driver jobs at the moment.
Well, he's not riding helicopters anymore. You can bet that.
Exactly.
No.
So less risk of him dying, I guess. But still, like, and Luka showed pretty good up in the finals. I mean, they lost pretty badly, but you know, next year could be his finals run.
Yeah.
And then you're just doubling your money on the Luka.
Yeah.
So,
True.
So the next question's from Garrett Lothar.
Yes. Congrats on raising the bat for the third time. Yeah. Very nice little cricket reference there.
We don't like cricket on this show, but that's okay.
I like cricket.
I'll have an allowance for this.
You don't like cricket? No, you
I
love
don't
it.
like cricket full stop.
Adam gets that
I
because
get-
he's old.
I
I'm
get it,
gonna
and I love cricket.
I'm going to edit this out.
I know this is happening. All right. Is there any rumors about signers, or who are you hoping Fanatics get to sign that Panini didn't? Tim Duncan, Paul George, Russell Westbrook.
So I did some research into that.
Okay.
So I found it very difficult to actually find a dedicated list of who Fanatics has on their roster.
Oh, okay.
And also, too, it seems like Upper Deck have taken down their roster of who were like the exclusive signers. So I couldn't find that again. But
Can I segue you quickly on this?
Yeah.
Because we had Tyson Beck on recently, right? And he just, I mean, the philosophy of giving an athlete a bag of cash to do a one-off signing, there are ways to do that. So is that what Fanatics are going to do with the ones they don't have exclusivity with? Because I'm sure they've got bags of cash.
So I think that's where my answer lies, is because they lost out on a huge number of the rookies from this year, like the top 13 all went to Fanatics.
Yeah.
So instead they spent that money on Tim Duncan. Also really interesting, Paul George and Russell Westbrook have started to sign again. So you will see Clippers PYT breaks actually probably way unders at the moment, because usually Clippers are like either the cheapest or the second cheapest.
Yeah.
But now you can get Paul George and also Westbrook autos in there, which Westbrook
that changes the...
doesn't have a huge following and a huge fan base, but at the same time, there's some people out there who's, going to be chasing that down.
Interesting.
Eamon Thompson and Azu Thompson have signed exclusively with Panini, so that's a really good one. Other people who have signed with Panini is Caitlin Clark, which is huge for WNBA, and we're going to be talking about that a lot over the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Moving outside of basketball, Kylian Mbappe, which is soccer. And I think also too, if we're looking at what else is Panini doing, so last week we spoke about them signing up that strange
UFC or
MMA league.
MMA leagues, yeah.
They've also got that EuroLeague contract that they're doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's where, Panini's moving into now that
They're
Fanatics...
staying in the game, so to speak.
Well, Fanatics have got everything else, so they have to do something.
Take the dregs.
Who would I like them to see signing? I mean, my all-time favorite is like Kareem, Bob Cousy, Hakeem. If they got those three guys, I'd be super happy about that.
Yes.
How about you, mate?
Look, I'd probably stay in the old school. There's still some money to be made there.
Yeah.
And go to other sports. So you've got like your soccer, you've got your foot, you've got your WNBA, because they have Caitlin Clark, they can really push that market. And then they can corner it. And then they can own WNBA.
Yeah.
Let Fanatics own NBA.
So Caitlin Clark is a bit like Shaquille O'Neal. She'll sign a contract with anyone. So she's signed both with Fanatics and also Panini.
Oh,
so that's a bit of an interesting one. So she's
Wow.
not exclusive to Panini.
Okay.
She's with both. Yeah.
I have a couple of thoughts. The first thought is that Fanatics really need to put like a trademark on that no autograph stamp that they used on the
Panini?
Yeah, the Panini no autograph.
The no autographs. They need to patent that design. So then, if there are no autographs, you just put no autograph, and that's theirs. Every time one of those cards sells.
I'm genuinely scared that the fact that, like, there will be collectors who will buy the Wembanyama no autograph, and that value is going to stick
because he didn't have one.
Okay, we're segueing here,
but on the autos though, I actually think the old school is probably where it's at, and along the lines of short-term deals, exclusive signings for one or two product runs.
Yep.
Imagine I don't know, name an old player that hasn't signed. Does Reggie Miller sign?
Not much.
Cool. So Reggie Miller signs for 3 products for 2025-26. And that's it. Throw him a bag of cash. That's it. Done. All the Pacers fans are going to go mental for that set.
Like what we're seeing with Tim Duncan. Because we haven't seen Tim Duncan for such a long time.
Create demand within a product.
I am frothing for Tim Duncan autographs. I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah. You got any that you want to see signing, Al?
I mean, not really. Like, everyone that I want to see signing is signing. Like, I don't have a lot of love for the old guys, even though I'm from the old school. Like, when I was growing up and playing basketball, like, grandmama was my guy, right? Like, Shaq was your guy, obviously. But, grandmama was, like, my absolute biggest dude. And back then, you didn't get orders. There was like, I think 3 different products, and one of them was like a non-licensed one that did Shaq orders. But those orders were like 1 in 10,000, so they were so hard to hit anyway. We didn't care. And now I actually think that now the problem with the hobby is that orders are actually kind of too easy to get. Numbered cards are too easy to get. Problem is you can't balance that. Because that's why the junk wax era was junk wax. Because you had all of this product, you had all of these inserts, but really what out of that actually was worth any money. We're facing a similar problem now, where if you're getting a base rookie autograph, it's worth maybe $20, maybe $30, depending on the guy, right?
True.
And that's kind of a problem. So I actually want to see less guys signing. But then how do you balance that out? Like, if you're buying a
cooler memorabilia,
if you're buying a hobby box, it should be a hobby box. Those cards should be exclusive to hobby, right? And they kind of like Panini realizes it started doing that kind of with Select, right? Because you have the blue base for retail.
Sure.
And then you have exclusive stuff for hobby and base silver, which is not silver, it's just chrome, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So when I think about it, I keep coming back to not who do I want to see sign, but how do I want to see these guys signing up? How do I want to see, these companies actually fixing the hobby rather than like spending $1,000 on a hobby box and getting $20 worth of value?
Yeah. Just a couple of adds to that. The Select thing is a really interesting one because Select Megas this year have been going absolutely off in breaks. And we did a podcast with Rod Adams, which is going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So I don't want to talk about this too much, but we made reference to that product breaking. And I think the really interesting thing about that is that everyone thinks that when you go into those breaks, it's really good value because there's lots of different parallels. There's lots of numbers coming out of it. But if you go through the checklist, there is so many numbered cards. There's so many parallels in that. Is it actually good value? And I think to take your point before about like junk wax, in my head, yes, there's a lot of junky cards in the era that we're in. I'm not denying that. But I also think too, parallels are still good to chase. Numbered cards in my mind are very valuable. With the exception of Select this year. I actually think Select you need to almost put into a different category altogether. How do you value this? I think even numbered cards are going to be worth very, very little. To take your point before about the autographs, I actually think autographs are worth chasing. Even if they're sticker autographs, I still put a bit of value onto that.
Yeah.
And we've spoken about this before. I actually think the thing that devalues Prism autographs is the aesthetics of them, which I think they've done much better these last 12 months. And then I actually think the value is maybe higher than what you're quoting, but we're obviously quoting very loosely.
Yeah.
Now, when I was doing my research for this question, I found a segue which I think we should build into this. So Panini also alleges that Fanatics CEO Michael Rubin, the former part owner of the Philadelphia 76ers and the New Jersey Devils, approached Panini in May 23 to threaten that Fanatics would no longer supply Panini with any jerseys for Panini to offer to consumers as elements of its trading cards, and would not stop its pressure campaign against Panini and continue to sign exclusive deals with players. Now, the relevancy of this is we know that Fanatics have done a lot of pressure deals with people, and they've done some very ruthless takeovers. That's like very much known. But I think where this is relevant for us as a hobby is that we've been complaining nonstop. All these cards that are coming out are all non-game worn, they're not even player worn. Is that part of that done because of a campaign from Michael Rubin to actually stop Panini getting game worn stuff? That's
that's a tinfoil hat conspiracy, right?
Yeah, but
it's got to be.
You can join the dots in that space,
You
right?
can, but we also came from COVID. There's still safety protocols and things that
we blamed COVID, but we didn't know that was a fact.
Yeah, okay.
The question is, when were these cards being produced, and when did this incident allegedly happen?
May 23.
May 23.
May 23. Oh,
May 2023, yeah.
Right. When did we start having non-associated jerseys?
Before then.
It was before.
2 years before that. Yeah.
And that's the point.
I think it's continued from there.
Yeah, but you don't know that hasn't happened previously.
Yeah, they may have looked to go back to it,
Yeah.
and then not because of this.
The other question is, why didn't then Panini go, if we can't get game and player worn jersey stuff, we should pivot and we should find a better way to do cards that include stuff that people would go, well, it's not game worn.
Yeah.
Do I care about this card?
Yeah.
Because then you've got people buying that non-game worn, non-associated jersey card.
Yeah.
Going purely by the number that's printed on the card.
Yeah.
And they could have done so many other things with that. You could have replaced it with a new hype insert that's like rare and cool and numbered. You know, like they could have done numbered Kaboom's way earlier in lieu of that.
Yeah.
They could have decided to make different casings. There's a lot of stuff they could have done, but instead they took the easy route and went, well, we've got a template for this. We've been doing this. Let's just continue doing it.
People do like memorabilia and cards, though.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
But when
even though it's non-game worn, people still do appreciate it and appreciate the aesthetics of it. So I think I see your point, but I also see why Panini need to continue to do what they do, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, honestly, they could have taken from the Upper Deck playbook. You know, there's like old Upper Decks that are like beautiful patches, you know, like from the Exquisite books. They're not game worn. They're just really nice fabricated patches.
Yeah, right.
And they're stated on the cap.
Yeah.
The design is beautiful.
Tops
do
did
it as well.
And it's amazing.
Yeah.
They do like
Hats.
logos and stuff on their patches, right? And they
right. So I see what you're saying. So still do non-game worn, but better game worn than what they're doing.
Just do a better design. Doesn't have to be a game worn fabric like a useless. It could be something
training jersey or whatever it is. Yeah, fair.
Instead of like, here's a patch to 99, but it's all red.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just fabricate something and chuck it in there? Like,
Yeah. It's almost like what's that really crap repack that they did and they stuck the cutout thing
Jersey
onto it?
Fusion.
It's like halfway between Jersey and
These guys get way too much airtime for my liking.
Okay, fine, we'll edit that out too. Alrighty.
They exist.
Steve Hallam, thank you for the question. How undervalued is the current rookie class due to the Wemby factor? It seems like Wemby or nothing but some quality talent going under the radar. So yeah, we've already touched on that today, 100%.
There's a trend, we'll call it.
Yeah.
There's the normal pathway a rookie card takes, right? And for everyone but Wemby, that is going to follow its natural course, which is in years 1 to 3, those players will experience a breakout. When they experience that breakout, the values go up.
Yeah.
And this is where you prospect on cards and they just gradually improve in their price.
Yeah.
Or they don't, and they bottom out. And the Wemby factor is the opposite, right? So because he's come out as such a highly regarded player, the prices, everyone's paying future prices for him. So if he does fail, the prices plummet. If he ends up doing what Luke has done, and that's not a lot, the prices stay high, but eventually start to Zion's the perfect example. How many times are your hopes and dreams of Zion being dominant shattered by an injury? You know what I mean? Like, eventually, like that, the hype train of that was insane. Now, Zion's now at a point where he's attracting appropriate value. Like, it's not the Zion hype train anymore. It's the Zion's valued at where he's valued.
And you can collect them now.
Yeah.
If you want to.
But if he were a normal rookie that wasn't hyped up, like had the Wemby factor, he would have gradually ticked up to that. It would have been down because of the injuries. And eventually has his breakout season where he plays 70 plus games and his prices go up. If you're the opposite and you come into the league as someone that is expected to perform, your Hall of Fame presentation is like the announcement at your Hall of Fame ceremony, your induction. That's the price everyone's paying.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't even stepped out into a basketball court yet, and you're being treated like a veteran Hall of Famer. You've won 0 championships, 0 MVPs, have 0 points in the league, yet you're fetching prices better than some of the greatest to have ever walked the hardwood.
So who are you buying?
Who am I not buying?
No, who are you buying?
Out of that draft class?
Yeah, so like, because I 100% agree with that take. I think that I don't own a single Victor Wembanyama card, and I think the value is to be had somewhere else.
I think you've got another season to work it out.
Yeah, sure. I think you do. I think Dries Walker from the Pacers, we spoke about him a while ago. I'm going to double down with that. I'm just looking through comps at the moment. There's nothing here that's really over $10. Even graded cards, there's a couple of SSPs that are like $30 for a permit to dominate. I'm totally fine with that. I think that's a good take. The other thing too I was thinking about this the other day because one of the Aussie kids got drafted by the Spurs and traded to the Pacers. Furphy, he won't play in his first year. Carlisle never plays rookies.
Yep.
Dries Walker will be playing next year. Furphy will be holding the drinks. So let's go.
His name's actually Furphy then?
His name's Furphy.
I'm not joking.
Not just a non-alcoholic beer?
I'm not joking. Yeah.
No, he's
Because
literally,
I thought that people were referring to him as a Furphy. Like,
so
he's a non-alcoholic beer for some reason. I was like,
huge
that's
shout
what
out.
they're talking about.
Australia represent. Yeah.
I have something to say on this.
What do you got?
Victor Wembanyama courtside elephant in a BPS 9.5 selling for 4.7k USD. Right? Your closest comp,
which is higher than a Jordan auto.
Yes, exactly.
Insane.
I think it's a really relevant point there. More expensive than a Jordan auto.
Yes. I would just buy a Jordan auto. The closest
Well, where's the
one-
bar, right?
Particularly in BGS too. That's some nonsense.
Especially when he's meant to end up being the next Jordan, right?
Well,
So he's still got 6 championships to go.
exactly.
A few scoring
Yeah,
titles.
a few scoring titles. He has to and LeBron James just went through this for his whole career. He's still going through it, and he still hasn't even hit the GOAT mark yet.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
So
Now, the closest that I could find value-wise when it comes to the rookie was Brandon Miller. It's not graded though, but it's only $650.
Yeah.
Looking back to 2021, you've got Anthony Edwards recently sold in a SGC 10 at 2.2k for an elephant. What I'm trying to get out of here is that Wemby's prices are so astronomical versus all the other ones in that draft class, including Brandon Miller, that like even raw that probably went for 2 or 3k, right? Like graded it went phenomenal, let's be honest. But even raw it'd be, let's say, about 2k.
Yeah.
Whereas Brandon Miller would be $650.
Yeah.
Like that is an insane gap. That is just crazy.
Yeah. Look, Brandon Miller is going to be tricky, and I think that's the true sort of play for me. I'm like, wait and see. So if you are buying that at $600, I think you need to be prepared that could go up a lot. That could also half in value too in the next 12 months.
I mean, it's Hornets. It's probably going to go down.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's like everyone knows that for some reason I still have a love affair with the Pistons. And every year they've got, Cade, who is phenomenal. They've got Jaden Ivey, who's pretty good.
Yeah.
They've got Duran, who's pretty good.
Yeah.
They've got all these great
Young players.
Yeah. But their coaches are horrible. As we just saw with their new coach that's,
Fired.
Yeah.
yeah.
he's making more than the players, isn't he?
I'm gonna give a bit of a more of an analytical take to it. You look at the draft, you look at the teams that are doing well and where the opportunities lie.
Yeah.
The Magic had 2 in the top 15 in this draft,
Yep.
and Orlando is set to take a step up next year. This is where those young players will get an opportunity on the big stage. So I'd be looking at how the teams are positioned.
And Memphis drafted quite well too. Like Zach Edey is actually a really good pickup at 9.
We also missed out on Lively.
And Lively, yeah.
Lively was a good pickup in this draft as well.
Yeah. Everyone missed Lively, didn't they? Now everyone's scrambling for Lively stuff.
Yeah.
The question I got for you fellas, just as an aside to this,
Yeah.
how do we think places are going to go next year? Shake Sharp will be back off injury and hopefully remain injury-free.
Yeah.
We've got Chris Murray, who's kind of middling but okay. We've got Scoop, who had a terrible rookie year but was looking solid before, and the games that he did play well and he looked very good. It obviously needs more time to figure out the paint. I mean, how are we feeling about Blazers? Because my money's on the Scoot.
So actually, I got some notes in this for later on in the show. So let's just segue straight into it. So,
well, before we do that, do we want to take a quick break?
Let's have a break and then we'll come back. Yeah. Alrighty, we are back and we're going to answer Al's question about how we're feeling for the Blazers for next season. So the first thing they did was they picked up Denny Adjava, which was like, in my mind, a really, really good get. I love that kid's motor. I think he's a really good player. And I also think too, I was actually in Washington and I saw him play in person, and that kid was easily the hardest working player on the court. He was always engaged. He was listening to the coaching staff. He actually cares about his team and his teammates. I think he's a really good player. They gave up Malcolm Brogdon to get him and also the 14th pick. So I think in terms of a return back for Washington, for me, this is a bit of a funny one because we've just talked about how weak the draft is. It's full of role players. I think the comedy element for me is that, is there a play that the Wizards are trying to win next year? So now they're like, we've got Malcolm Brogdon, we've got Jordan Poole, we've got Kyle Kuzma. We're going to try and get to the playoffs next year. And in my head, that is like the funniest thing I've heard in such a very, very long time. It's the
3% play. What they're going to do is they want to get to the playoff, the play-in, just to get to that spot where Atlanta did and get that 3% chance to get the first pick.
I mean, they could have just kept Rui Hachimura. They could have just kept Denny.
No,
and they could have kept
their
space and not traded for Jordan Poole. And they would have been like a good, fun young team. But that's just my 2 cents in all of that.
Maybe what they should have done was traded for Tyler Hero. Oh wait, is he even still in the league? Okay, never mind.
Hero's going to be fine. You're segueing too hard. All right, so let's come back to Clinigan. So Clinigan actually dropped down the board and got drafted by the Blazers. I think the part here that we need to discuss is that the roster already has DeAndre Ayton and also Robert Williams III, so there's absolutely a logjam there.
Yeah,
I love this for 2 reasons, though, because it means that you've got 3 players essentially playing for like 1.5 positions, so that creates a lot of opportunity, but also competitiveness on a young roster. I think that's really, really good. Now, Zach Lowe put out the point that there is some potential that you can play DeAndre Ayton at the 4 and play Clinigan at the 5 and have like a Twin Towers, which is now becoming like a little bit popular after the Wolves have done it so successfully. I'm totally fine with that with a young team. Just throw some stuff out onto the board, see what sticks, see what doesn't stick, and then move forward.
So what building the poor man's Twin Towers, you need literally one of them to be the defensive player of the year.
That's dominating.
For it to work.
That's what dominating's for.
Is it?
Yeah, that's what he was brought in to do, right?
No, but if you
brought in, that's a very interesting term.
if you zoom out for a second on what the Blazers have done, they've actually just been quite opportunistic about picking up young talent. So Ayton they got for cheap. Robert Williams they got literally for next to nothing. They've just taken this kid who fell down in the draft, which is Clinigan. Denny Adjava just came into their laps. I think that's a no-brainer. It's a bit like what the Detroit Pistons are trying to do, but they're just doing it a lot better. They've also got Shaedon Sharp. They've got Scoot, who's your boy. I like it a lot.
It's not a case of throwing stuff to see what sticks. I think there's actually a method to the madness.
Yeah, sure.
I think what they want to do is they want to have those 3 interchangeable guys that fit into 1.5 roles, because then you can chop and change. If you're being able to chop and change these guys, you might be able to find where their actual strengths are, and then you can put them into that role for their strength, rather than going, well, you usually play him, we're going to keep playing him. I feel like this is their way of actually trying to strengthen their team. So, I mean, it could be in the next couple of years, they might try and make a finals run. I'd be interested to see it.
I think they take a lot to tool them up to be a playoff team. But
I think that
we've seen some young teams build it.
Like, the West is brutal. Like, let's be honest, right? Like, even if you make it to the 10th spot in the West, if Portland does that next year, that's like what the Thunder did this year. It's a crazy good season. Yeah.
And I think that's maybe what they're aiming for, though.
Sure.
I don't know if they want to do a full playoff run, but, like, if you're getting into the top 10, to like make sure like, hey, we're here, we're young, and we've got the spirit to do it.
Yeah.
Then that bring in all sorts of opportunities.
Yeah.
So I think the way that it's inspired some teams obviously, but you've seen Orlando do it, you've seen Oklahoma City do it. Build through the draft, build through youth, and add some pieces around to get a young core growing together. Look, Portland might have a plan, Washington might have a plan. we'll see what happens. It's a pretty competitive. It's very competitive at the top.
It's definitely the cheaper way to go about it as well. Like you're picking up Denny Avdia, who was a first round pick. You didn't have to sacrifice any veterans, didn't have to sacrifice any talent.
Yeah.
You've just picked him up for, Brogdon, who's pretty much on his way out.
Very happy to get rid of him.
And the 14th pick, you were going to throw that away anyway. Yeah. So, now you've basically traded up, and this guy's got some experience.
Agreed.
He can actually help your team now. And Denny's got some defense.
Yeah.
So
he's got some hustle.
He's got some hustle. So, and then you just keep, like what Al was saying, just keep adding small pieces, see where the opportunities lie, and just keep snapping up these little deals here in left, right, and center. Before you know it, you've got yourself a 10th or a 9th seed, maybe even if you overperform one season, you might make it 8th and make it into the playoffs. And
I guess time will tell, and we'll have an Andrew gaze into the future and see how the next season or two pans out for the Blazers.
I definitely like value on Scoot though. Like he's because he had such a bad season, everyone's like, let's wash our hands of him. He's selling cheap. You can pick up a few on the low. That could be your pocket change hunt today.
So hobby questions on that. Does the team's success equate to the players to the players' value in the hobby? My thought is originally yes, right? So if obviously Wemby's the exception to the rule, but are we investing in Scoot and then we see 10 years of trash from the Blazers with Scoot best player in a terrible team? Is that gonna stimulate the market to want to invest in the guy?
I've always been looking at stats. So there's you can have a guy who's big numbers, scores a lot of points, but loses games. People don't care. But if he's getting triple doubles, getting rebounds, getting assists, getting points, those aren't empty calories. They're not just he's not, and he's not shooting 7 of 35. If he's being efficient, that means that there's potential. This guy's actually a legit star. Yeah. And you're seeing what happened with Minnesota with Edwards. He started to take over the control. He's got more efficient, started playing better.
Edwards
and then he exploded in this playoff, knocking off Nikola Jokic, and then his value just exploded,
Yeah, the Edwards factor now, I guess.
Well, I was actually going to say the thing we haven't touched on is the Fruja factor. And I think numbers matters, team wins matters, it all does matter. But at the end of the day, people like excitement. And then to take your point about Edwards, Edwards is exciting. Of course his value went up.
He's exciting. He's got a chip on his shoulder. It's so good.
He plays hard. He goes to the rim. He shoots threes.
He's a movie star.
Yeah. He's got a bit of everything. Yeah. All right. The next question's from Matthew Hull. Matthew, you have been a massive supporter of the show from day zero. So thank you so much. I really enjoy our chats that we have. Your question is, my convo topic you should talk about is then and now. Adam and Russell, and how the pod has grown, and where do you want it to go to?
I'll take then.
Sure.
I don't know. I remember when we started, and we're just we'll see where this goes.
Yeah.
We'll we hadn't really thought about a flow for the show. We just thought we'd talk about the hobby, talk about card values, and I think we started. Didn't our first few episodes? We started with the manifesto.
Yeah.
Really, when we launched as the You Can't Comp This,
we went through the whole manifesto.
We went through the Luba manifesto. Yeah. And then, I don't know, we probably should get some more guests on the show. We've had a bit of a lull in guests, but it was a nice little start getting involved, more involved in the hobby, I guess, with the community. So reaching out to different people, speaking to people we've spoken to over the years, but developing a different kind of relationship because we're sort of now part of the hobby. In Melbourne, anywhere in Australia, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how we got here. 150 episodes.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it?
I think record and you didn't stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the truth of it. We just hit record each week. We talk about things we enjoy about. And then we just sort of move forward with that. And then I think from a constructive or a reflective point of view, I feel like we've gotten better incrementally over time, and that's been important to me. In terms of where do I want to go into the future, I would love to see us get a few more downloads in America or the North Americas.
Some presence.
That would be my ideal sort of situation.
Yeah.
How we go about doing that. I'm hoping the radio show will sort of get us a few more clicks, and who knows though.
Yeah, look, I tend to agree with the I'd like more exposure, global exposure would be great.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. I think even an increase in our local markets would be nice to see.
Yeah, sure.
And I think from a personal perspective, this is one of those things where I guess I want to keep doing the show as long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And at the moment, I'm having a lot of fun doing this.
So that's it. It's as simple as that.
We're having a lot of fun doing this.
Yeah.
And from my side, I just want to keep doing it and having fun. Yeah.
We don't have time to go through everyone's questions and answers, but I think we can save that post and do them more in the future. So thank you everyone who did contribute to the post. We're very, very grateful for that.
Very much so.
Next in the run sheet is the huge trade that happened between the Nets and the Knicks. Mikal Bridges is going to the Knicks. The Nets receive Bogdan Bogdanovic, 5 first-round picks, an unprotected pick swap, and a second-round pick. So the story behind this is that actually the Nets didn't want to trade Bridges. They were very happy to hold on to him. However, if the grandfather offer was presented to them, they would then take that offer and move their team forward. And that's exactly what they've done. So
What a first round.
5 first-round picks is absolutely huge. I think the comp on that, is Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
The other one very recently that happened is Rudy Gobert, where they got back a huge package of picks. I personally think this is an overpay for it, but in terms of organizational fit, I like this a lot for the Knicks because Bridges is an Iron Man. He's never missed a game in his entire NBA career or his collegiate career. There's some story that he missed 1 game in high school. So I think you need people who are very durable if they're going to play for Tibbs and Tibbs' system. And so I think also in terms of the roster fit, that's the perfect roster fit for the Knicks. They need a flexible defender, someone who can shoot, someone that can fit in with Jalen Brunson. I think he fits in really, really well there. For the Nets, they got back some picks that they gave up for Kevin Durant. Yeah. So I think that's a win-win in that space.
And he's a Nova boy as well.
Yeah.
So there's
all the underground.
That's right.
So, and I mean, this goes with the chemistry fit.
That's right.
Like you said, Tibbs is going to put his name to the test on his Iron Man status because he's basically.
Isn't that on the Welcome to New York?
Now run a marathon. Now you run the marathon. Now you're on the New York Marathon as a warm up.
We're going to grind you to the ground. Yeah.
Don't bother coming to training camp unless you're prepared to play 48 minutes plus triple overtime with no break.
Got told because like the rest of the Nova boys would have told him, "Hey, come join us. Our coach is good. We're going to make a run. And he brings scoring. He's like, so he helps them out in a few different factors.
Does this move the needle on his collectability at all?
So for me, I think this is bad for Bridges. I think that when he went to the Nets, there was a potential that he was going to be the number 1 guy.
Yeah.
And then he was going to be the franchise leader.
Does this flow over to Brunson as well as like Randall as well? I think who are the guys? Yeah.
Brunson's hobby value is in my mind now concrete. It's solidified.
Okay.
And I still think you can see ups in the Brunson stakes.
Yeah.
In Bridges though, so he's last sold for $125 on his silver PSA 10. I don't think this is going to be going up from that. In fact, I would probably see that going down because I now think he becomes a very, very good role player on a very good basketball team. So there's nothing wrong with that. I've got no problem with that. But I think if you are investing heavily into this guy, thinking he was going to be like the number 1 on a future playoff team, that to me is very problematic for you.
So basically, you went from being Batman to Robin now.
100%.
Yeah, which is what like collectors want to go from. Like you want a guy who's a Robin go becoming a Batman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have you got anything to add to that, Al?
Not really. I don't like entertainment.
Okay. Well, that's easy. Next in the sheet was the Denny trade, but we've already covered that.
Yeah.
So we're going to go down to the Wolves. So the Wolves moved up the board. Now, the thing that really interests me about this is that the price that they paid for it. So in moving up into that spot, it actually is going to cost them a lot more money for their roster salary because they're already in the tax. So adding in that extra money, it's not just $10 million in salary. It actually gives them an extra $28 million in salary tax that they then have to pay. So now the flip side of this is that they're looking at this for the future. So Dillingham is a point guard. He is going to play the 1. He's going to be playing behind Mike Conley. Mike Conley has only got 1 or 2 more years to go.
This kid could be, he's been talked as potentially the steal of the draft.
And he's a Kentucky kid. We've spoken about this at length. There's so much talent on these Kentucky teams that actually go to the NBA to get playing time. That's like how stacked these Kentucky teams are. I think this is a really ballsy move by the Wolves to do this, but at the same time, they're clearly committed to making this championship team, making this team get better. And I also love it too, in that you've got Mike Conley can mentor this kid. show him how to play the game, show him how to be
Yeah.
a professional,
Yeah.
work on your body, all that stuff. Like Conley is like one of the good guys of the NBA. So just a huge get for them, but at a massive, massive price. Like there's not that many teams that go and spend that much money to get a first round pick.
It's very interesting the way we look at the value there.
Yeah.
Minnesota are seeing this as their window, right? They're actually seeing this as a real opportunity.
Yeah.
Their window's open. There is no price they shouldn't pay to take advantage of that opportunity and get themselves to the promised land, so to speak.
Yeah.
I was actually more surprised that the Spurs didn't keep the pick and have Dillingham on the same run with Wemby, because you need a guard. You need someone to grow with. Dillingham's like that kind of guard that like he has that potential. He has that ability to ball handle and
The
distribute.
first guy's a guard.
And Stephon
Stephon Castle is a guard.
Yeah, he's more of a defender though, Stephon Castle. So like I was surprised they didn't keep their pick, but you know what? If the price is right, you move it.
I think for me, that's what the Spurs are more about at the moment. I think they're more in asset acquisition as opposed to talent acquisition. So I'm not a lot surprised by that. And also, too, the Spurs are kind of weirdly, their roster is full. It's not like they've got that many roster spots to sort of play around with unless they shed some of the contracts that they've got.
The Spurs are a system.
Yes.
So what they do is they acquire the pieces they want for their system, and it'll be... I think it was strategic.
But going back to what we were talking about before, I don't mind trading for a future pick out of this draft, because if we've just acknowledged this is a weak draft and it's going to be a strong draft next year or the year after, like that's kind of a good play for a team that looks to the future,
Agreed.
which is what the Spurs are. They look very long term.
And they're probably betting on Minnesota's fuse being lit and being wiped out by the time those picks come in, right?
Maybe. Yeah. Alrighty, so the next story is we're going to head back to the Knicks here. So OG Anunoby has returned to the Knicks, 5 years, $212.5 million. I'm not great with maths. That's about $40 million a year.
Yeah.
The new max is $50 to $55 million a year. So if you're looking at 80% max for OG, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I might be paying overs for him, but...
Yeah. This story was slightly released before the Bridges trade. So I think when this came out, I was like, right, that's it. Their roster is set. So then for them to add another guy to it, I was then sort of thinking, are they going to trade Randall away? But there's nothing at all that's been said about that. The Knicks are going to go in next year with a really, really, really deep team. So I think the Knicks next year are going to be really good.
Yeah. Agreed.
What about card value for Anunoby? This guy,
I don't think this bumps the needle at all.
Is chronically low, and I don't think him being on a stacked team that's good is going to move it up at all.
No.
You might see a small bump, but I don't think this means you go out and invest in this guy because he's just signed this big contract.
Agreed.
You got anything for us, Al?
If you want to lose money, invest in him. Go nuts. I mean, look, this isn't going to bump the needle for him, and if this isn't going to bump the needle for him, what is?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Knicks winning a championship.
Exactly.
Him being finals MVP.
At least the next 3 years.
Yeah.
They might be.
But even then, OG is like what, like number 4 or 5 on the list? You know, like he's not going to get much value back.
He's going to maybe make $20. Good luck.
You know,
in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
No. This doesn't excite me at all. Like money wise on cards.
And we're talking about that sexy factor before, right? Like he's not a flashy player like Edwards. He doesn't get highlights. He's a defensive player. That's not a sexy thing in the NBA.
Yeah.
You know, it's great for us.
I don't know. Highlight reel wise, have you seen all the Jokic?
Yeah.
Like just chucking the ball up and it going in? They're sexy highlights.
Yeah. You know,
he's really not a flashy player, is he?
No. Dunks and highlight reels get the values because the media talks about it. Gets played on ESPN.
What's the biggest memory of Anthony Edwards this year? Is putting people on posters, right? And the trash talk.
Alrighty, guys, let's have our last break of the day, and we'll come back for our last segment, and then we will
tie this bad boy up.
Yeah, finish off today's show
and check out the Hobby Hangout.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys, we are back. I think we take a break from some of the trade news. There is still a little bit more for us to get through, but we can get
Hobby
to that
news
in the next couple of weeks. I think we should talk about Dan the Cardman. So Dan the Cardman did this amazing journalistic piece on the PSA cases that are now coming back. You can call it a crack. You can call it a flow line. I don't think it actually matters what it's actually called, but the appearance is a small crack in the case.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal from Al here. Al basically said PSA should know how picky and how selective collectors are about the appearance of their cards are. And clearly collectors are going to be upset about this. the initial reports back on this is that PSA weren't going to do anything about the cases. It was too bad, so sad.
Yeah.
Dan the Cardman did a story. Unfortunately, Jeff Wilson picked it up and it sort of became a much bigger story. Good on Jeff, though. He actually directly quoted Dan the Cardman, so all props in that space. And now PSA have actually said they're going to replace any card that has a flow line or crack in the case on that. So
if you see flaws in the actual...
Not a flaw.
it's a flow line.
It's a flow line.
Yeah.
If there are flaws in the ways of the aesthetics of the product you're putting out,
That's
they're
exactly
correcting
right. Yeah.
It's still not.
Yeah.
It's a flaw to the aesthetics. It's a flaw to the
Good.
aesthetics.
Yeah.
So I'm just towing the PSA line that this was absolutely.
You've been
not a
collecting
flaw.
Panini cards way too long.
Look, when it comes down to it, you would think that they would have had anything like this fixed way before it went into production. The reason I say this is because we are all tied to aesthetics. If anything, it is the fault of grading companies like PSA to get us tied to aesthetics.
Yeah.
Because if a corner is slightly boxed,
That's
even
right.
a little bit,
Yeah.
it's going to get a hit on grading.
There is a sense of irony here that it's almost like you need to grade a PSA grading case.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very ironic. When are
Yeah.
we going to have like some grading? Oh my goodness.
BGS's new subgrade, your case grading the case.
It's a case inside a case.
It's
If
going
I
to a
was
5-tier.
any other-
Yeah.
If I was any other grading company at this point in time, I would have leveraged that to my advantage and gone, we are now grading your PSA graded
Ooh.
cases.
If you were any other company other than PSA,
Well,
you'd be out of business from this.
Yeah.
exactly. That's the point, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is not just a tiny little thing. This is like, it makes it look like either the card has problems or the cases have problems. And then when you look at it, it looks aesthetically terrible. And they would have known this. We discussed this.
Newton's rings.
Thank you. We
Yeah.
discussed Newton's rings
Yeah.
in our chat about this.
I muted the chat for that
Because
bit.
Because I didn't realize that was the thing that they fixed by
So-
bringing these cases out.
That's
So
right.
they get
Yeah.
one
So
problem.
just to add some context to that, in the previous slabs, the issue was Newton's rings, which basically gave an appearance of like wet and circles through the card. And they've just released a new slab, which they said it's fixed that, but the problem they're now having is flow lines. So yeah.
It's just, this whole thing is ridiculous because it shouldn't have happened in the first place. PSA should know enough. And
They're encasing cards.
Frankly.
The quality of what they're presenting needs to be.
Yeah.
especially considering they are the big dog.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they are the bar. They
This
set the bar. Yeah.
These didn't go through QA.
Right.
This means
That's what I was about to say next. So
people in the public from pre-release to,
Yeah.
hey, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
Did they not go through beta testing or anything?
Yeah.
I think by sending them out and people complaining is they're sending them out to see what people thought.
So I think I've got a few things to add to this. The first thing is they would have purchased 1 billion of these, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like they say 1 in 100's got a flow line in it. We can just chuck that one in the bin and that business is going to be fine. They would have paid what, 2 cents or 3 cents for them? Like, who cares?
Yeah, yeah.
The second part is there's no such thing as bad publicity. So now everyone again is talking about PSA. All eyes are going to PSA. So there's no real loss for them in that space.
Nope. None
But
whatsoever.
I think also too, to me, it's a little bit counterintuitive. Like it costs money to post something back into PSA. It costs them money to put into a new slab. Just fix the problem at the time. Get an intern to do it.
Yeah.
Like an intern can look for flow lines in the cases, you know? What do you got for us, mate?
Man, look, it's actually, I always found it very funny that a company that is selling you the idea of attention to detail
Yeah.
misses the minor details.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
The irony
you
is
know,
strong, isn't it?
it's,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous,
Yeah.
you know. But like, look, they're not. Their values aren't going to take a hit.
No.
They're too big to fail.
They're still the king.
They're too big to fail. Their values are still
Agreed.
going to be better than Beckett. They're
Yeah.
still going to be better than anybody else that
Yeah.
comes to the market.
I think the other problem is you're always going to have people on places like Reddit who cry blue bloody murder, who say that they won't go to PSA anymore, and quite frankly, the loudest voices are usually the smallest minority because no one else really gives a crap.
Yeah.
Right? Like people
Fair.
are still going to agree with PSA.
PSA is the market leader, and that's the end of the
Yeah.
conversation.
And they're not
Yeah.
doing it Panini. They're faced up to the issue and saying,
Yeah.
look, you know, this was a flow line issue. This wasn't actually a flaw in our slabs, but because it's there and because you don't like it, we'll replace them. We'll go back to market.
But just to hold you on that point, what's the difference between a flaw and a flow line? Because in my mind, a flow line is a flaw.
So aesthetically, technically speaking, it is a flaw. PSA don't want to tell you that, right?
Yeah, sure.
But it's not actually a flaw in the material of the slab, right? So this is the problem where PSA are like, oh, well, it's not a flaw in our slab. It's just something you see, right? Because aesthetically you are seeing it, but it's not like a crack or anything like that. So
it's important that they do clarify that it's not a flaw, that it's part of the process, right?
Yeah.
But they've also
But that's a
PSA have done this
QA problem.
It is. Yeah. So PSA have done this time and time again where when they're questioned, they're put to the sword, they respond. Their customer service is second to none. They guarantee if
they're dynamic.
Have you ever owned a transformer?
The PSA guarantee.
I had one.
Right?
Yeah.
So somewhere on that transformer toy, there is a spot where it was poured into a mold for a certain thing.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
Flow lines
injection molded.
From the injection molding. It's a flaw. We see it as a flaw anyway. They don't, because they're like, no, this is part of the process that's caused this non-issue that you think is an issue. To them, it's not an issue.
No, they should know better.
They should.
Yeah.
But this is their hype train of saying, like, basically gaslighting everyone and going, well, we're sorry that you don't like it, but this has been part of the problem.
Yeah.
Right? So you're seeing it. It's not a problem. It's part of the process.
Yeah.
However, because it's part of the process and you don't like it, we'll replace them.
Yeah. Anyway.
But that's their customer service coming to the table.
They're very dynamic.
They're very much, their guarantee with a fake card is if we make a mistake, we will fix it. If you're not happy with the quality of the product we gave it, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
And this was a thing.
And there's no other grading company that can do that.
Yeah. And this is not the first time that we've seen a quote unquote not flaw like this when it comes to PSA. Very early PSA slabs actually had a flaw at the bottom from the injection molding. Because just like anything you make in plastic, it has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And it usually gets screwed up. But when you're making thousands of them,
but the bottom of the slab versus the right in the view of the card is a problem.
That's the point. Yeah.
And that's why they're...
Because if it wasn't over the card, no one would have noticed.
Yeah.
It took ages for people to notice this one.
Well, because it ruins the aesthetic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if it was at the bottom of the slab, not anywhere near the card, no one would have noticed. No one would have actually cared. Maybe one person would have picked up and they would have gone, oh, that's a bit weird.
I think the bottom is better than in the middle of the card like it was.
No doubt.
Yeah. All right, let's stay with PSA because this is some good news for hobbyists. I think people are going to enjoy this. Moving forward, you will now get greater notes when your cards come back from PSA. There is some small fine print with this. The first thing is it's only for people who are authorized dealers and doing bulk subs. It's not for people doing individual subs. And the second thing is, and they've put a whole new small print in their T's and C's, none of this data can be then reappropriated, put into tables and used to aggregate and, use for sale. So that is a really interesting one. I have no idea how they're going to police that. Maybe they'll go aggressive onto people and do a lawsuit if it's put into like a big website or to a big table, something like that. But I think for smaller collectors, you'll definitely be looking at those subgrades. I don't think it's going to be subgrades like BGS. I think it's going to be where was the card downgraded on? It's a corner issue. So it'll be a tick in the box. That's what the issue is. It's a service issue. That's going to. I don't think it's going to be like what BGS is offering.
Not at all.
Where are you at with this, Joe?
With PSA, look, this is a nice new step. This is like we're talking about with their customer service. They're listening because they're hearing what people say about what we love about Beckett, which is the subgrades.
Yeah.
This is just their way of adding in subgrades without putting it in on the actual slab itself.
Yeah.
They give you a little printout, which they already have. Chuck it in the box. Everyone's happy again.
Yeah,
so you figure out what was wrong with the card so you can have it trimmed or what? Jokes, by the way, jokes. Yeah.
I mean, look, no, this is definitely a good step for them. Yeah. Like they were always, they know what people, they know how to listen.
They know what people want.
They know what people want.
Yeah.
They know they can dominate the market with this. And look, with the flow line, that was something that they thought they could roll out, but they thought people wouldn't notice. And obviously that came back to bite them. But like you said, bad
I'd have
press.
loved to sit in that meeting.
Oh.
Because there would have been a meeting of it.
There would have been a tech who goes, you know what, there's a flow line issue. It's small, but I think we should probably it would cost us a bit of time to move it, and somebody above him would have said, "Shut up, Scott."
The meeting would have been, "Let's send him out and see what happens."
Yeah, let's send him out and see what happens, you know. And then, like, if no one notices it, cool, you know.
And then the people in the QA department are just like, "Oh no."
They probably would have.
They started drafting their responses.
They knew it was coming, but you know what? Let's see what happens, you know. And look, it's a good move. I like the little subgrades. I like getting these little notes, you know, because there will be us who will read these notes. There are people who read the notes.
We're an OCD group. So.
Yes.
Al, where are you at with this, buddy?
Well, what I'm trying to find is the actual report on this because I'm pretty
The fine print.
Because the fine print, I'm pretty sure wasn't bulk up. It was specific grading.
Express level and above.
Thank you. Because that's one thing I really wanted to point out. Okay, so number one, it's not for you and me.
If you pay a premium, you get the notes. Simple as that.
So if
I would pay for Express if I had a card worth grading Express.
So what would you grade Express as a base?
As a base?
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. I've got a very specific card I would grade Express.
I know. That's why I was asking.
I've read a couple of different things. So I think, for example, if you sub with the Hobby or you sub with Slabbed, if you sub with Slabbed, I think you'll get the notes back with that too.
They'll send it back with.
I agree with what you're saying. It does say that.
They're like, don't expect premium service if you're not paying the premium price as well.
Which is fair enough, by the way. Yeah.
Yes.
To get what you pay for service.
I will agree with that. One of the big problems at the moment is the disparity between the price of our dollar versus the US dollar. I think that is an issue.
Yeah.
When it comes to grading.
Yeah.
If you're an American, it's great news. Terrific.
Sure.
If you're in Spain, maybe not so much if you're trying to send yourself. I do know a couple of people who send themselves and they send lots of Pokemon stuff. And I mean, like, they're turning over like millions of dollars a year in Pokemon slabs.
Yeah.
Not a joke. Pokemon Steve Hype. He doesn't listen to this podcast. He doesn't
But
do NBA.
But if it's something,
that's
that's if you're doing that much business with PSA, you would reach out to them. I would expect.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, on one hand, I think that it's about time. On the other hand, I would like to not. How would I put it? I would like to be able to pay extra to receive a grading report on stuff that I grade, because some of the stuff that I've sent away that's come back an 8 or a 7 with 0 visible flaws on it, 0 problems with surfaces.
Yeah, and
I'm legally blind, so I'm looking real close at cards.
That's the wrap on PSA, isn't it? That it does seem there's a bit of variability when it comes to their grading.
The question is, if a grading report comes back from a card, can I then raise that with PSA and go, hang on a second?
Yeah,
they've said in their fine print, no, it can't be used. You can't argue the report. This is their findings. The report is their findings.
And I'll also let you all.
They can't go, there's a surface scratch, and you write back and go, no, it doesn't. I want a 10.
Oh, yeah. you need to pay for it to be regraded to have that conversation.
These new slabs also, just FYI, are a lot stronger than the old PSA slabs, or even the quote-unquote modern, the ones that were updated from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
These ones are really hard to crack.
Yeah.
They are very hard for you to buy, crack, and resub. Like, there are people who have been offering crack and resub services who have lost a lot of money over the last couple of months
because
they've
can't
been
crack.
Damaging cards.
Yeah, right.
Because trying to crack these slabs is not like the old PSA slabs.
Right. Interesting.
So,
I think that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Crossing over
but
the gap.
all ties in.
Yeah, you're right.
Like,
it's all together.
I want to crack and resub because I think that is the wrong sub, and you're telling me I can't argue with it. But trying to crack your new PSA slab that you have made thicker and stronger and reinforced.
Yeah.
That's a problem. So as good as this is for the hobby, it's also bad for the hobby. So 50-50.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's show. So any final thoughts, Joe?
Look, I'm just getting excited to get out there. I've got some money to spend.
Yeah, let's go get some cards.
I've seen some shacks. I need to go do some shopping.
Yeah,
go for some shacks. Awesome.
Go for some shacks. That's what a shack crew does.
Yeah.
Al, what are you look on? Are you on the hunt? Are you buying or selling today?
Killian Hayes.
No, we're not doing
bargain right now.
Yeah, load up.
Load up. No. The same with Carson Edwards, who, funnily enough, is in the EuroLeague, and Panini misspelled his name on the box. Thanks, Panini.
Quality
Edwards.
control.
You would think he's French. No, Scoot Henderson. Yeah.
Scoot Henderson on the
Yeah.
hunt.
I didn't get to do my pickups, but I picked up 2 cubic Revolution scoots. For
Oh, we haven't
60
even
bucks
start.
so-
We haven't started to pick up stuff yet. So pocket change will be next
I'm
week.
just saying.
Pocket change will be next week. We will do a post.
Oh, I'll have it stocked by then if they want a Raz for a Caynes rookie
Oh,
1099 Spectra Auto.
Nice.
That was good.
Nice. I'm gonna go and hunt for some cards.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, like we'll talk. We're gonna go and hunt for some cards, and we'll talk about it next week on the pod.
Yeah. Look, I'd just like to say thank you, Adam, for 150.
Yes, it's been a
fun.
ride. It's been great.
Yep.
Here's to 150 more.
Yeah, well, yeah, let's
Maybe
try.
we'll start with 50 more.
Yeah. And then thank you to all our listeners. Thank you to everyone who downloads, listens to the podcast. It means the world to us.
Yeah.
Thank you to our Central Coast Radio listeners, and we'll see you all next week.
Yeah. See you guys.
Bye.
Well,